For 4 years, a German shepherd named Boxer sat in the same spot, unshaken by the brutal weather or the passing seasons, his eyes always fixed on the same stretch of road. The old gas station where he waited became his world, his home, his hope, and his heartbreak. Through scorching summers, freezing winters, and violent storms, Boxer never moved. His fur became matted, his body thin from the harsh conditions, but his spirit, it remained unwavering. People who passed through the quiet town would see him, sitting like a statue, unflinching, unmoving. But no one knew his story. No one knew why this dog was trapped in his lonely vigil, waiting for something, or someone, that never seemed to come back. Truck drivers, locals, and even strangers who stopped to grab gas or a quick meal at the diner noticed Boxer. They offered him food, even tried to coax him into their cars, but he refused. He didn't want their food, their shelter, or their company. He only wanted one thing: the people he loved. And no matter how much time passed, no matter how much kindness was shown, Boxer never left his post. Some, like Martha, the diner owner, whispered about him, wondering who he was waiting for. "Poor thing," she'd say as she placed food by the gas station, her heart breaking for the dog that couldn't let go. "I hope they come back for him." Boxer's loyalty was a silent cry, a love so pure that even the most hardened hearts couldn't help but be moved. But Boxer didn't need food or shelter from anyone. He needed his family, the people who once loved him, the ones who he believed would return. And so, every day, he waited, unshaken by the world around him. The rain soaked him, the heat exhausted him, and the winds howled around him, but Boxer didn't budge. His loyalty was too strong. He believed, deep down, that someday his family would come back, and he'd be there waiting. This dog wasn't just waiting for any stranger, he was waiting for the love of his life, his family. And in that waiting, there was a lesson: loyalty that never gives up, no matter the odds. Every morning, like clockwork, Martha, the diner owner, would drive past the old gas station, her heart aching as she spotted Boxer sitting faithfully by the rusted pumps. He never moved, never wavered, just sat there, staring down the road with eyes full of hope and sorrow. Martha knew something others didn't. This dog wasn't just abandoned. He was waiting. And she couldn't help but feel drawn to him, her compassion moving her to take action. Each day before opening the diner, Martha would stop, set out a plate of food, and whisper a soft, "I hope they come back for you, boy." Boxer would eat, but only after she had left, never showing any sign of affection, just a quiet acceptance of what he needed to survive. The town folks had noticed Boxer, but no one knew his story. To them, he was just the dog that wouldn't leave. But Martha saw more than just an animal. She saw a creature in pain, a creature holding on to something far beyond the comfort of food or shelter. She saw loyalty, the kind of loyalty that breaks your heart, because it's so rare and pure. And every day, as the seasons changed, Martha watched Boxer braving the storms and heat, curling up near the abandoned gas station, the only place he believed he could find his family again. Martha had tried to convince him to leave, to come inside the diner, where it was warm and safe. But Boxer wouldn't. He didn't want the comfort of a meal inside a warm building. He wanted something that couldn't be given. He wanted his family back. And so, Martha kept feeding him, her heart aching every time she drove away, leaving him to his loneliness. Yet, in the quiet moments, when no one was around, she'd see him rest, curled up against the cold concrete of the old station, waiting. Waiting for something that seemed impossible, but remained his one true hope. Martha's compassion wasn't about solving Boxer's pain, it was about acknowledging it, offering him the one thing he needed, someone who cared enough to notice. It was a small act, feeding him every day, but it was enough to make him feel seen, even if only for a moment. Noah Patterson had seen plenty of stories in his time as an investigative journalist, but none quite like the one unfolding before him. As he drove through the small town, something about the sight of Boxer sitting motionless by the old gas station caught his attention. The dog never moved. No bark, no wagging tail, just an eerie stillness that made Noah's curiosity spike. What kind of dog just waits like that, day after day, in the same spot? Something didn't sit right. This wasn't a typical stray, this was something more. Unable to ignore the pull, Noah parked his car near the gas station, pulled out his phone, and snapped a quick photo. His instincts told him there was a deeper story here, one that had been overlooked by the rest of the town. He walked into Martha's diner, where the smell of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon filled the air, and slid onto a stool. It didn't take long for Martha to spot him, already anticipating his question. "You're going to ask about the dog, aren't you?" she said, with a knowing smile. Noah raised an eyebrow. "It's not just me, huh?" Martha chuckled softly, pouring him a cup of coffee. "That dog's been sitting out there for 4 years," she said, shaking her head. "You're a little late to the mystery." The words hit Noah like a ton of bricks. 4 years? How had he not noticed a dog sitting in the same spot for 4 years? He leaned in, urging Martha to tell him more. Martha's voice softened as she continued. "Some folks think he was a trucker's dog, maybe lost along the way. Others say he's just been abandoned. But me? I think he's waiting for his family." Noah's mind raced. A dog waiting for its family? It seemed impossible. Yet there was something in Martha's voice that made him believe her. He pulled out his phone, opened his investigative notes, and began jotting down everything she said. This wasn't just another story. It was a mystery. A story of loyalty that could break hearts. And Noah knew he had to dig deeper. Boxer's silence, his steadfastness, had a reason. Now Noah was determined to uncover what it was, no matter where it led. Before the road became Boxer's prison, it had been his playground. He had once been part of a loving family, the Carters. The bond between Boxer and Lucas, their young son, was unbreakable. From the moment Boxer was a tiny puppy, Lucas and he had been inseparable. Every morning, Lucas would wake up to the sound of Boxer's excited paws tapping against the floor, waiting for his best friend to greet him. Boxer followed Lucas everywhere, the kitchen, the yard, the living room, curling up beside him at night, resting his head at the foot of his bed. The love between them was simple but pure, a kind of joy only a child and his dog could share. But one day, everything changed. The Carters were returning from a trip to visit Emily's parents when disaster struck. It was a stormy night, the kind of night where the rain came down in sheets and the wind howled like a predator. The roads were slick, the air heavy with danger. Inside their car, Lucas was laughing, Boxer's head resting on his lap, when suddenly headlights appeared from nowhere, too close, too fast. The crash was deafening. Boxer awoke to chaos. The car had flipped, the world around him spinning and breaking apart, the screeching of metal, the sound of shattering glass. Then, silence. Boxer scrambled out of the car, his body aching, his senses overloaded. He saw them, Emily, Benjamin, and Lucas, lying motionless, their bodies being pulled from the wreckage by paramedics. Boxer tried to get to them, to help, but a stranger grabbed him, holding him back. Panic seized him, and in a blur of confusion and fear, he bolted, running from the wreckage. He didn't know where he was going, but he couldn't stay there. He needed to find his family. Days passed as Boxer wandered, lost, disoriented. Hunger and exhaustion set in, but his heart couldn't stop searching. He didn't understand why they hadn't come for him. Why had they left him behind? He found the gas station, and in that broken, lonely place, he waited. He believed, somewhere deep inside, that they would come back. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into years, Boxer's hope began to turn into sorrow. He wasn't abandoned, he was just waiting. Waiting for a family that had no idea he was still alive, and he would wait for them forever. The night of the accident shattered more than just the car. It shattered Boxer's world. One moment, everything was calm. The rain falling softly, Lucas's laughter echoing through the car. The next, chaos. The screech of tires, the blinding flash of headlights, and the sickening jolt that sent the car spinning off the highway. When Boxer regained consciousness, the world around him was dark, the air thick with smoke. He could hear voices, the faint sound of sirens, and the heart-wrenching cry of Lucas. But the most terrifying sound of all was silence. His family was gone. As the paramedics rushed to pull his owners from the wreckage, Boxer was held back, his body trembling, his instincts screaming to run to them. But someone grabbed him, tried to stop him. Fear, confusion, and panic overwhelmed him as he twisted and pulled, desperate to get to Lucas, Emily, and Benjamin. In his frantic state, he broke free, not knowing where he was going, but knowing he couldn't stay in the wreckage. The people he loved were out of reach. He had to find them. Boxer ran, with nothing but the storm to guide him, his legs moving on instinct as he fled from the site of the crash. He didn't know how far he'd run, or for how long, but he kept going. In his heart, he believed if he just kept moving, kept searching, he would find them. He would bring his family back together. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Boxer wandered the desolate roads, searching every corner for a sign of his family. Exhaustion set in. Hunger gnawed at him, but his heart still refused to give up. It wasn't until he stumbled upon the gas station that something inside him clicked. This place, with its rusted pumps and abandoned walls, felt familiar. And in that familiarity, Boxer believed deep down that this was where he was meant to be. The road was long, but he would wait here. He would wait for his family to find him. For 4 years, Boxer stayed at that gas station, enduring every kind of weather, his body growing weaker, but his resolve never fading. He waited, unwavering in his belief that somehow, some way, his family would come back for him. The world around him moved on, but Boxer stayed. He was loyal, waiting for a family that had no idea he was still alive, clinging to hope against all odds. Noah's gut told him there was something more to Boxer's story. The dog wasn't just some stray lingering on the side of the road. He was waiting for something, or someone. Noah's instincts as a journalist kicked into high gear. He couldn't let this mystery slip through his fingers. After his conversation with Martha, he knew there was a connection he needed to uncover. As he sat in his car, scrolling through missing dog reports, his eyes froze on one particular file. It was from 4 years ago. The Carter family, missing their beloved German shepherd, Boxer. The file struck Noah like a lightning bolt. Boxer, the name he'd been seeing day after day at the gas station. The dog who refused to move, who sat in that same spot no matter the weather, no matter the time. The realization hit him hard. Boxer had been waiting for his family all along. He hadn't been abandoned. He hadn't run away. He was loyal beyond measure, still holding on to the belief that his family would return. Noah's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just a heartwarming story about a lost dog. This was a story about loyalty, hope, and a bond that refused to be broken, even in the face of unimaginable odds. Noah's fingers flew across the keyboard as he pulled up every detail on the Carter family's accident. The crash site was less than a mile from where Boxer had been waiting all this time. The pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Boxer wasn't just a stray, he was a ghost of the past, waiting for a family that had no idea he was still alive. Noah knew that this wasn't just another story. It was the story, one that would move hearts and restore faith in the purest form of loyalty. Determined to share Boxer's journey with the world, Noah grabbed his camera and set up a shot of the dog sitting motionless at the gas station, eyes still locked on the road. He hit record, capturing the silent devotion that had kept Boxer rooted to that spot for years. This wasn't just about finding Boxer's family anymore. It was about showing the world the incredible story of a dog whose love knew no bounds. Noah posted the video online, knowing it would break hearts, spark hope, and maybe, just maybe, reunite a dog with the family he'd been waiting for. Noah hit post, and within minutes, Boxer's story began to spread like wildfire. His video of the dog, sitting motionless by the old gas station, had struck a chord with thousands of people. The raw emotion in Boxer's eyes, loyal, waiting, and unwavering, touched something deep within viewers. It wasn't just a video of a dog, it was a reminder of everything pure and unconditional in the world. The video quickly gained thousands of views, and as comments flooded in, so did the heartbreak. People shared the video, tagged friends, and asked the question, "Who is this dog and where is his family?" One woman sitting halfway across the country watched the video as her heart skipped a beat. The dog's face, those sad, knowing eyes, it was too familiar. She stared at the screen, her hand trembling as she replayed the footage. Could it be? Could this really be their dog, the one they had lost 4 years ago? She didn't waste another second. Her fingers flew across her phone, typing a message. "I think I know this dog. This is Duke. He's been missing since the accident. I'm sure of it." The message was sent, and in mere moments, Noah received a notification that would change everything. A woman had recognized Boxer as Duke. As she explained, the Carter family had been in a devastating car accident, and their beloved dog had gone missing in the chaos. The family had believed Duke was gone forever, lost to the storm that had torn their lives apart. But here he was, waiting for them, still alive, still holding on. The message struck Noah like a thunderclap. This wasn't just a story anymore, it was a reunion waiting to happen. He immediately replied, his heart racing as he typed out the details. Duke was still there, sitting by the gas station, just as he had been for 4 long years. He was waiting for his family to return. Within hours, the story had reached the Carter family. Emily, Lucas, and Benjamin, who had never stopped mourning Duke, were now faced with the most incredible news of their lives. Their dog, the one they had lost in the storm, was still alive, and he had never stopped waiting. The internet had brought them together, and what had once seemed impossible was now within reach. It was time for Duke to come home. The phone call came like a bolt from the blue, shaking the Carter family to their core. Emily's hand trembled as she listened, her heart racing. "Boxer, he's alive," she whispered, barely able to comprehend the words. For 4 years the Carters had mourned their beloved German shepherd, believing he had been lost to the storm that had shattered their lives. They had never stopped thinking about him, hoping, even praying that somehow, somewhere, he had survived. And now, against all odds, they had confirmation. Boxer was still alive, waiting for them, as loyal as ever. The news hit them hard, each family member processing it in their own way. Emily, her voice choked with emotion, turned to Benjamin. "We have to go. We need to get him." Her words were barely audible through the lump in her throat, but the determination in her eyes said it all. After all these years, after so much heartache, Boxer was still out there, waiting for them. He hadn't given up on them. Now, they couldn't give up on him. Lucas, his face pale with disbelief, clutched his phone in his hands. Is it really him? Our Boxer? He couldn't believe it, couldn't fathom that the dog he had loved so fiercely all those years ago had been waiting for him, never leaving that spot. His heart ached for the dog he had lost but never forgotten. Without another word, they packed their bags, grabbed their coats, and piled into the car. The long drive ahead of them felt like an eternity, but they didn't care. The distance between them and Boxer was nothing compared to the years they had already spent apart. The road stretched endlessly before them, but it didn't matter. The only thing that mattered now was getting to Boxer. The family's hope, long extinguished, was reignited with every passing mile. As they drove, Emily's mind raced. How would Boxer react? Would he remember them? Would he still be the same dog, or had the years of waiting changed him? Her thoughts were a whirlwind of questions, but one thing was clear: Boxer was waiting, and they were coming for him. No more waiting, no more wondering. It was time to bring him home. The moment the car came to a stop at the gas station, time seemed to stand still. The Carter family stepped out, their hearts pounding in their chests, eyes scanning the empty lot. And then they saw him. Boxer, still sitting, just as he had been for years, his eyes locked on the road. But the moment he saw them, everything changed. Boxer's ears perked, his body stiffened. He sniffed the air, his eyes widening as if he could scarcely believe what was happening. Then, as if his heart knew before his brain, he moved. Slowly at first, but then, the floodgates of emotion burst open. Boxer bolted forward, tail wagging, his eyes filled with recognition, the kind of recognition only an animal with an unshakable bond could have. He was no longer the lonely dog waiting by the side of the road. He was home. Lucas didn't hesitate. Tears welled up in his eyes as he crouched down, arms outstretched, calling out, "Boxer! It's me, buddy!" The sound of his voice broke the silence, and Boxer, with a joyful whimper, sprinted toward him. The two collided in an embrace, Boxer nearly knocking Lucas over with the force of his excitement. Lucas buried his face in Boxer's fur, sobbing, his heart bursting with relief and joy. "You waited. You waited for us, boy," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Boxer's tail wagged furiously, as if to say, "I never stopped." Emily and Benjamin stood back for a moment, their eyes brimming with tears as they watched the reunion unfold. Benjamin, stoic as always, reached down to rub Boxer's ears, his voice breaking as he said, "Good boy, you're home now." The years of grief, the pain of losing Boxer, all melted away in that one perfect moment. They were a family again. For Boxer, the journey was over. The years of waiting, the seasons that passed, the lonely nights. All of it had led to this. The family he loved had come back for him. And as Lucas continued to hold him, tears streaming down his face, it was clear that this wasn't just the reunion of a dog and his family. It was the reunion of lost love, of loyalty, and of the belief that no matter the time or distance, love would always find a way home. Bringing Boxer back home wasn't as simple as opening the door and letting him run in. The joy of the reunion was undeniable, but the reality was much more complicated. Boxer had spent 4 long years waiting, alone, uncertain, and with no sense of security. Now that he was back with the Carters, the world he once knew felt strange. The house wasn't the same. It was bigger, unfamiliar, and Boxer, despite his excitement, was hesitant. Every creak of the floorboards, every unfamiliar sound made him jump. His tail, once eager and quick to wag, stayed low, and his eyes darted around the room, searching for something he couldn't quite find. Emily's heart broke as she watched him, knowing that this was going to take time. Boxer wasn't the same dog that had left them. The wounds he carried weren't just physical, they ran deep into his spirit. He was no longer the playful puppy that had run to greet them at the door. He was cautious, guarded, his mind still trapped in the years of waiting, the endless loneliness. Emily sat on the floor beside him, speaking softly, giving him space, but showing him the love he had been missing for so long. Lucas, too, struggled to understand. He longed for the old Boxer, the dog that had once followed him everywhere, played in the yard, and slept at the foot of his bed. But Boxer didn't want to go outside, didn't want to lie on the bed, didn't want the things he used to. The transition was slow, so slow. Sometimes Boxer would retreat to the back door, staring out as if he was still waiting for something to go wrong. It was clear that his trust wasn't something that could be rushed. But the Carters were patient. They let Boxer come to them at his own pace. They gave him time to heal, time to adjust. They left the door open, literally and figuratively, allowing him to come and go as he wished. letting him explore at his own speed. The first night Boxer slept inside, curled up in the living room, was a small victory. The first time he wagged his tail as Lucas entered the room was a sign that progress was being made. It wasn't easy, but step by step, the family worked through Boxer's trauma, showing him that he was home. And in the quiet moments, when Boxer would look up at them with those familiar eyes, the family knew that together they would rebuild the trust that had been broken and create new memories of love and safety. For the first time in what felt like forever, Boxer was starting to show signs of joy. The early days back home had been difficult. He was hesitant, cautious, constantly on edge. But over time, something changed. The first time he ran freely in the yard, ears flapping in the wind, tail wagging with a joy he hadn't known in years, Emily and Lucas couldn't help but watch with tears in their eyes. Boxer was finally beginning to feel at home, letting go of some of the weight that had burdened him for so long. But while there were moments of joy, moments of freedom, Boxer still carried the scars of those 4 long years. There were times when the excitement would suddenly drain from his face, his tail drooping as if the weight of the past pressed down on him. The yard, so full of life and energy, would turn into a place of uncertainty, and Boxer would retreat, his eyes distant, as if he was still waiting for something to go wrong. The trauma of his abandonment, of waiting for a family that never came, was not something that could be erased in a day or even a month. It lingered in his every movement, in the way he would startle at sudden noises, in the way he would pause at the back door, looking out as though expecting to be left behind again. Emily and Lucas knew that healing wasn't a straight line. It was going to take time. They allowed Boxer to have those quiet moments, the times when he needed space, but they also made sure to celebrate the small victories, the way he ran toward Lucas with a joyful bark when the boy called his name, the first time he curled up on the couch beside Emily, without hesitation. Those moments, though fleeting, were signs of progress. Each day, Boxer grew a little stronger, a little more trusting. He would play fetch again, chase after the squirrels in the yard, and, for a moment, forget the loneliness of those years. But deep down, Emily knew that Boxer's journey was far from over. The scars of waiting were still there, hidden beneath the surface. And so, with patience and love, they gave Boxer the space to heal, knowing that the love they shared would be the greatest cure of all. Boxer's story is a powerful reminder of the extraordinary bond between a dog and his family, a bond that can survive the harshest trials and the longest separations. For 4 years, Boxer waited, unwavering in his loyalty, holding on to the belief that his family would come back for him. His devotion was a testament to the kind of love that doesn't fade, no matter how much time passes, no matter how much pain is endured. Boxer's loyalty was more than just about waiting. It was about the trust he had in the love that had once surrounded him. Even in the face of abandonment, he never let go of that hope. The family's journey with Boxer wasn't just about reuniting, it was about healing. Emily, Lucas, and Benjamin knew that Boxer's return wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a long road toward trust and recovery. They saw the pain in his eyes, the hesitancy in his every move, and they understood that love alone wouldn't heal the wounds of 4 years spent in loneliness. But they also knew that love was the key to his recovery. They gave Boxer the time he needed, offering him patience and tenderness, allowing him to adjust at his own pace. They didn't rush him, didn't force him into a life he wasn't ready for. Instead, they let him heal slowly, giving him the space to remember what it felt like to be safe, to be loved. Each small step, each wag of Boxer's tail, each moment he trusted them a little more, was a victory. But those victories didn't come easily. It was through the Carters' dedication to Boxer's well-being, their commitment to showing him the love he had lost, that Boxer began to trust again. Their home, once a place of pain and loss, became a sanctuary where Boxer could rediscover the joy of being part of a family. And in turn, Boxer's recovery reminded the Carters of the healing power of loyalty, second chances, and the unwavering bond that can never be broken, even by time or distance. In the end, Boxer's story isn't just about a dog who waited. It's about the transformative power of love and trust, about the way a family's dedication to healing can bring light back into even the darkest of lives. Boxer's journey proves that with patience, compassion, and unwavering love, even the deepest wounds can heal. Wow, what an incredible and emotional story. It's a testament to the kind of loyalty and love that we don't often see, especially from animals. Boxer's unwavering devotion to his family, waiting by that gas station for 4 years, is truly heart-wrenching. The fact that he never gave up on them, even when the world seemed to have moved on, shows just how deep the bond between a pet and their family can go. It's hard to even imagine the loneliness he must have felt, but his loyalty never faltered. I think what really struck me about the story was how the Carters handled Boxer's return. It would have been easy for them to expect things to be the same as before, to just take Boxer back and assume everything would fall into place. But they recognized that he wasn't the same dog. He had been through so much. Their patience, love, and understanding in giving him the time and space to heal was truly moving. It's a reminder that healing isn't instant, and it's not always linear, whether we're talking about pets or people. This story made me reflect on the importance of second chances and the power of loyalty. It's not just about being there when things are good. It's about standing by someone, even through the hardest times. Boxer's journey shows us that love can endure the toughest trials, and that sometimes the most profound healing comes through patience, trust, and never giving up. It's a beautiful reminder that love doesn't give up on us, even when we're at our lowest. This story left me with a full heart, and I feel grateful to have been able to experience it.